everyone, it's Charlotte and thank you for joining me again. Today I'm going to be using the June 2020 kit from Papercraft Society. So this is the box, the pretty box that it comes in, and music is timeless. Use a versatile kit. It comes with this little project card and gives you some tips, in this case about heat embossing this month. You get a book with the designer, and through the booklet there are multiple card ideas and to-dos. Then in this package you get this month, whoops, upside down, let's try that this way. You get all the dies here in this collection. I've already used this so it's hard to see, but there's a guitar, a violin, and other elements that you'll see in the card designs today. It comes with papers, but these papers I've actually already used. I already started using the kit before I thought I should do that boxing video. You get 2 of that, 2 of these, 2 of these, and then there is some vellum papers, and this is the other vellum paper that I didn't use, and then you get that, and you get some black cardstock as well. When you go online, when they actually released the kit, you can go online and find other things and template. This one is a template of a grand piano. They had some other templates that I haven't used. And then here we have a very cool embossing folder and a bunch of stamps here with a bunch of horns and strings for the guitar and sentiments. And then on the bottom of the kit, what you'll find is some more goodies. And this month's kit, there was these 3 inks of different colors and a gold embossing powder. And then these are some sequins. All right. For the first card, I'm going to be using the guitar die that came in the kit, and I cut it from some of the wood grained paper, and then using the various ink colors that came to add some shading and a different color to different parts of the guitar. I'm then taking it over to my stamp platform, and I'm going to stamp the strings on it. However, there are 2 different sets of strings that came in the kit, and I decided that this was the one that belonged with the guitar because it tapered off at the top end. However, when I stamped it, it didn't seem that the bridge, that horizontal piece that comes at the bottom of the strings, was in the right place. So I decided to look at my husband's guitar and saw that it needed to come down, the strings needed to come down, and the bridge needed to come down a bit further. So at that point, I took it back to the stamp platform and added some more strings and the bridge, and that's this area here. So I'm going to take off that little piece there that is called a pick guard, and I'm going to bring back in the guitar stamp, the guitar string stamp, and restamp that with the bridge at the bottom. And now I'm gluing on that pick guard and the bridge. I had cut another guitar from the wood grain paper and decided to stain that a little darker, and then to bring in some black to the handle, which I believe they call the head of the guitar in guitar lingo. And I'll just glue that on to over top of the neck and head that are already there, making that a little bit more sturdy. And then here I'm putting the card together. I used some of the cardstock from the kit and cut it just a little short of 5 1/4 or 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And then I just took a piece of plain white cardstock and cut that a 1/4 inch shorter and mounted that on top of the pattern paper. Then there is this gorgeous note paper, musical note paper that came in the card kit that I used some vintage photo distress ink to brush on the sides. Here I'm mounting my guitar, popping that up on some foam tape, and putting a small piece of black cardstock behind that, and mounting that on the card on the right side, a little tilted. And I had already pre-cut this sentiment from the die set in black, and we'll just glue that on the top left hand side of the card. And I'm not trying to get it straight, I'm actually trying to get it a little, so it has a little more interest. And then just repositioning. I had already embossed one of the sentiments that came on the stamp, to wish you well, and trying to decide on placement there. And then we'll finally put that on the bottom half of the card, and then mounting that whole panel onto my card base. So that is the first card. I'll just trim off some of the guitar that was hanging over the edges with my long scissors. And the second card, I'm taking again leftovers of the pattern paper that I'd already used in the first card. Then I use the embossing folder to emboss the musical notes onto a panel of black cardstock. Now, I believe that this cardstock in the kit was supposed to have a brown core, but it didn't sand out very well. But actually, after sanding it for a while and not getting much of the brown to come through, I thought that probably was better anyway, because otherwise my sentiment, just a note, would not have shown up as well. I took again some more die cuts from the kit, these musical notes, and you can see in the center it tries to want to make its own little heart. So I'm going to try to mount these so that that little heart in the center turns out to look like a heart. You can see I'm using this glue sponge. I really love this glue sponge. There's a lot of reviews out there on it, and some people either really like it or don't like it, it seems. I really like it, especially for intricate die cut. It just makes it so much easier than having to try to get glue on every area of intricate dies. And here now I've taken some of these sequins that came in the kit, and I believe that's called the cleft? I can't remember. But anyway, they are made out of a plastic material and kind of shiny, so they added a little bit of something to the card as well. Now I'm looking in my stash, I believe, for something to go in that area that I made look like a heart. And I found a little gem that I had gotten in a past tonic kit, and it fit perfectly into that area. And it was a rose gold color, and I did have a gold metallic paper that came in the kit, but because that gem was more of a rose gold, I actually went to my own stash, got a little bit of the rose gold metallic paper I had, cut that in very thin strips, and just mounted that up under the black panel I had, cut that off at the ends, did it again for underneath the bottom half of the black panel. And that card is finished. My third card, I took the stamp set with all of the horns, and I stamped all the horns on the top of the paper. I had already embossed, used the embossing folder with the keyboard, and in that, with that die cut set, there are the little black strips that you can cut out and place on that keyboard, and they just fit perfectly into the indentions made by the embossing folder. Here I've cut some of the gold metallic paper in a frame, and that I had, I believe that's a die cut from Sizzix, rectangular die set, and placing the panel, popping that panel up on foam tape, I believe, and then putting that on the panel of black and gold. And then I've already pre-cut a sentiment, again, the just a note sentiment, out of both black and gold, and decided to use, I believe in the end, both. No, I decided that rather than putting both the black and the gold on top of each other and mounting them, it would look better if the gold was just placed on a black strip of paper here that I cut out. It just, the sentiment mixed in too much with the background, and it really did not pop out, so mounting it on this black strip of paper solved the problem. So the next card is a little different. I tried to use some of the vellum paper that was in the kit, and I wanted to make a card that was a little softer, because the vellum just seemed to work well with softer type cards. So I took some of the musical notes pattern paper and was trying to conserve that, so cut that in half and mounted just 2 thin panels on each side. I put the same thin panels of the vellum paper, and I've started using this low odor spray glue on vellum just because it gives a nice coverage, and then you don't see any of your glue spots when you press the vellum down onto the paper. And again, I was trying to conserve that, so I just cut 2 thin strips of that, and then we'll trim off the ends. Then another of the patterned papers, the flowered paper, and I had already embossed that with a happy birthday sentiment in white on the top part. I cut it, I believe, yeah, there we go. Put it right down the center, and then took some of the gold metallic paper and cut into very thin strips, and we'll use that just here a little later. I cut the violin and put the violin together all in white, and then cut another violin in the gold metallic paper and mounted that behind, just so you could get a little bit of dimension, and did the same thing for the musical note, and again using my sponge glue, which is sometimes really messy, and I think that's what causes some people not to like to use it. But if you use a tweezer and pat it into the glue with a paper towel, it isn't really messy at all. Here I'm doing the same thing with the guitar, or the violin bow, mounting that on the gold violin bow that was cut separately, and then mounting that diagonally across the front of the card. And to give it just a little more pizzazz, I took those gold strips and was trying to decide where they would look best on the card, and finally decided that putting them in between the 2 patterned papers to break that up a little would be the best. And that is card number 4. I lost the footage on this card, but still wanted to show you. I used the template that I had shown you earlier in the video and just put it on top of black cardstock, outlined it, and then fussy cut it out of the black cardstock, mounted it onto a white card base. I used the die, sentiment die from the kit, cut it out of white cardstock, as well as cutting it out of black foam, and mounted that up there. put the pattern paper strip, a gold mirror strip, and I put that all above one of those little keyboards that I had made out of the embossing folder. For my next card, I found a stencil in my stash, and this stencil, I guess I would call it a whirlpool stencil, a spiral stencil. There are many different stencils out there in the same pattern that you can find, and each one of the swirls in the stencil, I am using a different color of the ink that came in the kit, and using different brushes, as you can see here, to kind of get into the small spots with the very small makeup brush, and then going to the larger makeup brushes as I get down into the bigger areas. So I use the lighter orangey yellow color, and then use the brown tannish color, and now using the deep cherry brown color, and just continuing in that pattern until all the swirls are completed. And my idea, as you can see, was to take one of the stamps in the kit, the Circle of Notes, and I'm going to stamp that in black, the Circle of Notes. I'm going to stamp in black on a piece of white cardstock and fussy cut that out. I will find a circle die that fits the center of that stamp and then cut that out. Then I've cut a piece of acetate and mounted that on the circle, and I'm going to make a little shaker card out of that. So I'm getting a little pack of sequins that I have in my stash, and using those to put into the acetate. I was trying to decide on what colors would look best. I finally did decide on the two metallic colors. There's a little gold metallic and a little bronzy color metallic that I'm going to be using and trying to fit on to the center. I don't like to use a lot of sequins in my shaker cards. I try to use the smaller bits so that I don't have to mount it up too high, so that it'll fit still in a standard size card. So there I'm mounting that up and putting on the card, and mounting that onto the card base with some black cardstock underneath. I'm going to cut the panel a little bit shorter so it fits better on the black panel. And once I have that done, I have stamped or embossed a sentiment again, to wish you well, in white on black cardstock. And I'm going to stamp a note above that in black ink, and then I finally take one of the other die cuts from the kit that I have cut out of black cardstock, and I mount that on top of the circle of notes for today. Thank you so much for coming today. I hope I've given you some inspiration. Have a great day, and hope to see you again soon.